Hey, hello everybody. Thanks for joining in on this Sunday morning. So today we are going to be discussing a little bit about the interim budget for 2024, and then we are going to be taking a quick look at what is the impact of some of these sort of allocations uh, that the finance minister has announced on our small cases, and then a quick look at how the market has done so far since the last time we got together. I think the last time we got together was sometime in December. So the markets have continued their bull run, and the last time we had discussed about the valuations, we're just going to take a quick look at that. So let's get started. As I told you, key highlights: how budget will impact our Windmill Capital small cases, recent market performance, and then obviously we're going to open up the floor for questions from you people. Uh, it was a fairly short budget, given that it was an interim budget, and there are going to be elections held in April or May of this year. So there were no major policy announcements from the finance minister. Only a couple of allocations were sort of laid out, and it was a short presentation. So just like how our presentation is going to be today. So some of the highlights are fiscal deficit for FY24 was slightly better than expected. It dropped from the announced 5.9% of GDP to 5.8%. Uh, there were like a couple of different analysts who had sort of come out with their concerns about based on the capital expenditure of the government and the likes. They had uh, come out with their concerns around the fiscal deficit. It was expected to be around 6 to 6.1%. There were talks that the government will not be able to adhere to the promised 5.9%. But looks like the government has sort of pulled off the magic and been able to do one better, going down from expected 5.9% to 5.8%. So another area was the capital expenditure that's happening from the government side. That sort of has continued. The momentum has sort of continued. The capital outlay for the next year has increased by the capital outlay from the central government side has been increased by about 11.1% to 11.11 crore. This will be about 3.4% of the GDP. Once again, the focus on railways sort of continues. We had discussed this recently in some of our manager updates also. If you are invested in transporting India and the likes, we had discussed this. Last time was one of the highest outlays for railways, and that momentum sort of continues this time as well. The finance minister announced 3 dedicated railway corridors, just like there was a dedicated freight corridor. This is sort of an extension to the corridor or a complementary aspect to the freight corridor. Uh, the overall focus is on to reduce to help transport resources like minerals and cement, connect ports, and reduce high traffic density. So the total allocation towards transport sector, the focus always for this government has been consistently they've been talking about reducing logistics costs and the likes. The total allocation towards the transport sector has increased by 46.6% to 4,76,000 crore. Right, so that's a huge increase. Another area that the government said that they have done well is the Awas Yojana, the affordable housing segment. The government had announced in affordable housing category that they are spending money on. They are giving subsidies to build about 3 crore houses. The target was that they will build 3 crore houses by FY22. It's FY, they're a little off target in terms of the timeline. But the finance minister announced that they will be reaching the target very soon, and they have taken up an additional, 2 crore houses that will be built over the next 5 years to accommodate more families. So this is sort of the budget highlights. I'll quickly go into uh, budget highlights and its impact on specific small cases. So let's get started with rural India. So once again, there are continued efforts in value addition in the agricultural sector, and a lot of it is focused on boosting farmer income. Special focus on post-harvest activities. So there's been sort of like, if you look at whether it is transport, whether it is infrastructure, whether it is rural India or affordable housing or anything of the sort. One good aspect about the budget that's been sort of like being laid out is that there is a lot of continuity in terms of the work that is getting done. So one of the aspects main election pictures of the government was that they will double farmers income and stuff like that. So there's like a lot of activity. Whether the farmers income has actually doubled or not, it is for the economists to decide. But there seems to be a lot of activity, and the allocation seems to be consistently high on the rural India side. So as I told you, special focus on post-harvest activities like modern storage, efficient supply chains, marketing and branding, all of these continue. Last year they had talked about improving fisheries and stuff, and this year that sort of focus continues. There is going to be efforts towards improving aquaculture productivity, a lot of support to dairy farmers coming in. So if you look at the actual numbers for FY 2022-23 fiscal year, 2.13 lakh crore had been spent. They slightly increased it to the revised estimate for this year, that is year ending 31st of March 2024, is about 2.18 lakh crore. And then the same sort of momentum continues during the next year also. The total allocation for all rural aspects, this includes stuff like Manrega, expenditure towards Blue Revolution, Green Revolution, Krishi Sinchai Yojana, all of these aspects taken together, the allocation is about 2.28 lakh crore rupees. So that is as far as rural India is concerned. Next, we have affordable housing. Like I already told you, the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana was introduced to provide housing for all, and the timeline was about FY22. The government had declared that they would be, providing subsidized loans. The target was to build approximately 3 crore houses by FY22 with basic amenities. So they're a little away from the target. It's already FY24, but they're saying that we're close to finishing all of those 3 crore houses that we had promised that we will build. And the government has taken up an additional 2 crore houses that they will build over the next 5 years to accommodate more families. So once again, you can see that in fiscal year 2022-23, that spent about 73,000 crore. This year, though the allocation was on the higher side, the actual expenditure seems to be marginally lower. Only about 54,000 crore has been spent. But then next year, they're sort of coming up with increased allocation at 80,000 crore. Let's hope that, the revised estimate or the whatever is the allocation, that entire thing gets distributed. So next we have electric vehicles. There are a couple of different mentions. There's this rooftop solar thing that the finance minister was talking about, and she said that is definitely going to assist electric vehicles. In addition, the government will also expand and strengthen the electric vehicle ecosystem by supporting manufacturing and all sorts of charging infrastructure. We've already seen some type of activity that's going on and some controversy also. There was a subsidy being given out by the government. Some of these companies, like Greaves Cotton and the likes, had taken up the subsidy, but then there was a charge saying that they have not really met the criteria, but they have simply claimed the subsidy. So there was all of those things, typical stuff that you see with any government subsidy or allocation. But the government is sort of bullish on the entire ecosystem, and they're saying that we will continue to support this. There is greater adoption of electric buses also for public transport networks. And central government will be encouraging the entire thing via payment security mechanisms. So we've been following the electric mobility trend for quite some time, and we've seen that over the last year, there's been a lot of activity happening on the buses side. Ashok Leyland is doing some work on switch mobility. They have landed up with Tata has come up with tenders for or has won tenders for to provide buses for city transport in a couple of different cities in India and stuff like that. So a lot of activity happening on the electric buses side. And now central government has come out and said that they'll come up with a payment security mechanism. And so hopefully we can see a lot more electric buses on our streets going forward. So last year, the allocation was quite high, 5,172 crore. A lot of that has been spent as well at 4,807 crore. This time, the allocation has reduced. It has come down to 2,671 crore. One can speculate as to why this has happened. We don't really know. Possible that the government is sort of bringing down a little bit of the subsidy on the lower side and going more for a payment security mechanism, which does not really require any allocation from the government side. So that might be one reason why the allocation is on the lower side. But nevertheless, the focus seems to be there. So we are quite positive about that. Next, as I told you, we have the infrastructure aspect. Capital outlay for the next year has increased by about 11%. This has been a consistent trend. You can see, the graph onto your right. So there are two kinds of things when it actually comes to infrastructure building that's been happening in the country. One is what the central government spends, right? They spend money via National Highways Authority of India. They whatever is the allocation that's done to railways is central government spending. And then whatever is the allocation that is being made to build new airports is something that goes out from the central government. Apart from that, they also provide grants to state governments to sort of pick up capital expenditure projects. So one of the schemes that they have announced and that they have been running for some time is a 50-year interest-free loan. And last year they had allocated about uh, you know uh, 1 lakh crore or something of the sort. And this year also there's been a special scheme of allocation of 1.3 lakh crore has been done towards this scheme where state governments can claim specific or can plan out specific capital expenditure products and claim money from this kitty. So you can see that since 2015-16, how capital expenditure by the government has been increasing, how the grant paid out has also been increasing, and so the total capital expenditure, the sort of jump that's been that we've sort of seen in 2020, the amount was just about 6.5 lakh crore, and then to sort of kickstart the economy post COVID, the government put out a lot of focus on increasing capital outlay, and that sort of continued. That momentum has continued. So that green line quite steep. So that is as far as infrastructure is concerned. Next, we have transporting India. Like I told you, the focus last year was also on improving the railway capacity and the experience for passengers as well. So that focus has sort of continued this year also. The government is implementing 3 dedicated railway corridors to transport resources like minerals and cement, connect ports, reduce high traffic density. These, along with the dedicated freight corridor, which is nearing completion, these 3 new things, all of them put together, are sort of expected to accelerate GDP growth and reduce logistic costs. And in terms of improving the passenger experience, 40,000 normal bogies will be converted to Vande Bharat standard. So the focus is on safety, convenience for the passengers, and comfort for the passengers. And you can see that allocation. See, in 2022-23, they had spent about 240 crore. And at 24-25, they have sort of double the entire amount at 476 crore. So that's like exceptionally high allocation to all the transporting projects across India. So that is as far as the budget and small cases are concerned. Now I'll quickly run through what's happening on the market side. Just a quick recap. We've done a fair amount of discussion during our December rebalance also. So this is just going to be a quick recap. So quarterly GDP growth sort of continues its upward trend. The orange line that you see over there is the long-term average since 2018, which is about 5.5% or so. Now in September 23, we are at 7.6%. Overall, going forward as well, the trends have been bullish. IMF recently sort of said that, for the next year, which is 24-25, they've increased the GDP growth forecast to 6.5% from the earlier 6.3% that they had mentioned. So overall, on the GDP growth front, we seem to be doing fairly well obviously when compared to the rest of the world. Inflation also slight uptrend in December, but otherwise still not too far away from that black line, which is the long-term average of about 6.5%. Okay, and then moving on, RBI Housing Price Index, slight taper down that you see over here. From in June 2023, it was at 331, all-time high, and it's come down slightly, marginally, good for home buyers, but still a lot of steam left in that, given how GDP has been growing. Composite PMI, which sort of shows how factories have been doing, or how purchasing managers sort of look at the order inflow. It is significantly above the long-term average. It is at 61. So any number above 50 indicates bullishness, and the number is at 61, which indicates extremely high bullishness. Right. Next, we have auto sales. So there are 2 different things happening in auto sales, right? One is on the two-wheeler side. 2018, 2017, 18, 19 was probably some of the best years as far as auto sales are concerned. And then it has, post-COVID, it significantly dropped down. This is because the bottom of the pyramid people, we could keep talking about all sorts of GDP growth, but the demand from the bottom of the pyramid has not really sort of come back, right? Which is why two-wheeler sales have not been doing has not been doing well. And you can sort of see that in the price performance of companies like Bajaj and Hero also. There's been some pickup in the price performance recently, but if you look at their long-term price performance, sort of has been very flattish. So now you can see that the volume growth path for two-wheelers also is sort of started to trend up. It still has not reached the all-time high level of 2018-19. So there is still some distance to go there. if you look at the volume, but the volume growth itself has started trending up. What has actually done extremely well is on the four-wheeler side. Now, within four-wheelers, you can sort of break it down into the bottom of the pyramid. It's not really bottom of the pyramid. It's one or two steps above the bottom of the pyramid, which is your small cars and the likes, compact cars, and then you have the SUV types, right? What has actually sort of done really well? What is sort of pushing that growth trajectory over there? That is the sales in SUV. People who have not been affected as much by COVID, right? They still have a lot of purchasing power left, and they are sort of pushing the sales of SUVs and the likes. But the entry-level cars, right, which are Alto types, there's these people have been really affected by COVID and whatever the subsequent downtrend in demand and GDP growth and all of these things. Inflation sort of hit them very hard. So all of these factors combined, at the entry level, there's not been too much of sales happening, which is why you sort of see that Maruti's price performance has been pretty flattish, right, since COVID and the likes. So that is sort of the divergence that you see in auto sales. Next, we have foreign portfolio investments and the SIP flows. Foreign portfolio investments for calendar year 2023 pretty bullish. 1,71,000 crore coming into the markets. First couple of months, we sort of had some negative trends, but then during the later part of the year, there was significant pickup, which allowed us to sort of do very well. Now, next thing is on the domestic side. What is happening? How are Indian investors themselves thinking about investing in markets? And I think that green number sort of shows you, right? In 2018, the AUM under SIP, the SIP AUM was just about 2.4 lakh crore. And in spite of COVID, in spite of inflation and everything, Indians have been betting very big on the markets, and you can see that it has reached close to 10 lakh crore. That's a CAGR of close to 33% since 2018, and there is significant, and this is sticky money. Nobody is sort of planning to remove this money, or if there is one sort of negative news, it's not like FPIs where the money is getting withdrawn from the market. So very, very heartening to see those numbers. Right. Okay. Now, quick recap of performance. What has happened? So between October 21 and February 23, pretty bad time for the market. You can see those large negative numbers everywhere because of Russia-Ukraine crisis and a whole bunch of other things that was external to India. Nifty 100 performed pretty poorly. Nifty small cap fell by about 16%. Nifty 500 was flattish. March 23 onwards, we sort of started seeing a bullish trend. Nifty 100 surged up by close to 30%. Nifty mid cap and small cap also did extremely well, 56% and 68%. And Nifty 500 also did well, 35% growth. But then it was on 15 January that all of these indices hit their all-time high, and then subsequently, and you can sort of look at the the current PE column also. For Nifty 100, the current PE is about 23, which is slight overvaluation compared to its historical average since the last 13 years. Nifty midcap also slightly overvalued there. 23.3 is the historical PE average, and what we now have is about 25. Nifty small cap also 26%, 26.7 is the historical PE, and we are close to 30 now. Nifty 500 also slight overvaluation there. So markets have started taking a breather now. You can see that since 15 January, there's been sort of like a flattish performance. But overall, given the sort of trends that we are seeing, we at Windmill Capital believe we are sort of in for sustained, bullish trend. Obviously, everything is contingent on what happens in the May election and the likes, and that's where we are at, and hoping for whatever is the party that comes to power, we hope there is sort of continuity in economic performance and in sort of policy matters, and I think if that happens, we should be good. So it's a short presentation today. I think I'll stop at this. We can start off with question and answers, right? So I think first question comes in from Vijay. He's saying which segment would perform better in very long term, EV or green hydrogen? Nobody knows about what's going to happen in the very long term, Vijay. Well, we are pretty bullish about electric mobility. We have a small case going on. I don't have too much of insights into how green hydrogen will work or not. And it might not end up being a mutually exclusive scenario also, where it is either EV or green hydrogen. Maybe both of them will do well. So that's what it is. So another question was Brahmadev is saying, please small case like BM top 10 or Nifty top 10 by Windmill for better and stable returns. Uh, Definitely keep that in mind, Brahmadev. We are consistently exploring a couple of different options when it comes to sort of, when it comes to sort of introducing new products, whether it is on the small case side and or introducing new themes. What are the changes we can make within each small case? What is the best ETF that we can bring to you, and all of these things? We'll definitely keep that in mind in terms of uh, launching new small cases based on BM top 10 or Nifty top 10. Uh, Okay, next I think Vishal is saying, what about House of Mahindra for 10 years? Well, I don't want to give a recommendation. The whole point of having a House of Mahindra small case is because we feel, it's like, House of Mahindra, the company itself came into existence during World War II, right? Post World War II. So they've been around for a long period of time. Their products are quite well known in the market. So, price performance is something that everybody can sort of see. Keep all of these things in mind, and I think anybody can sort of like take a call based on all of these factors. So I don't sort of have to recommend whether House of Mahindra is good or bad for the next 10 years. Okay, Deepak Sharma, which sectors are good for an entry and which ones look good to sell currently? Once again, Deepak, this sort of goes into the recommendation territory. I don't really want to tell you sort of like, this looks good, this looks to sell. I mean, that would basically be based on valuations if I have to say something of that sort. And we don't really want to sort of come out with those sorts of recommendations. All our themes that are available to you on the platform, we are sort of bullish about that, which is exactly why they have been on the platform. And I think the recent performance has also been good. Whatever fits your sort of like risk profile and what you feel you believe in, you can definitely go ahead and invest in. There's never a bad time to sort of start investing in something, right? All the solar related stocks are currently in upper circuit. Is it wise to invest in such stocks or wait for a correction? uh, well, I'll give you a very generic answer. If you feel the market has run up a fair bit, you can obviously see the numbers on your end, how the performance has been like. And on the valuation side, also some of these stocks have, are slightly fairly valued, are more than fairly valued. So kindly take a look at all of those factors. How much have they run up? What is the valuation happening? Either is the valuation justified or not? And based on that, you yourself can take a call. So I don't really want to come out and say so and so specific solar stocks or the subsector in general, but keep in mind what is the run up that's happened. What is the valuation, and then you can take a call. Um, Okay, Dilshare is saying, if I've invested in this market for 2 years and just want to know if I should take out returns in short term or long term. Dilshare, see, very difficult to answer that question. Small case is basically a long term, investment thing. It is not something that we recommend that you work it out in the short term. So unless and until you need the money or you're not bullish about the theme or the model that you've invested in, there should not be any reason for you to pull out the money. That is all I can tell you. Ashutosh says, which might get better returns for next 5 years, small or mid cap or large cap. So, Ashutosh, I really can't guess which particular index is going to do well. Overall, we are fairly bullish about what is happening in India in terms of the sort of capital outlays that we've been seeing, sort of the tax reforms that we've been seeing. All of these factors, we are fairly bullish. So we are largely bullish about the Indian market. Within the Indian market, whether it is the large caps that are going to do well, mid or small caps, we don't really know, right? Over the long term, if you have the risk appetite and if you can stay invested, I would always suggest sort of like going for mid and small caps. But that's just my suggestion, and uh, you don't have to sort of take it as a recommendation. Vinay is also asking me the same question. Will Indian economy outperform in the for long-term EV or green hydrogen or green energy? Like I told you, we have an electric mobility small case. We have it because we are, we are in sort of bullish about this thing. I don't have too many insights into green hydrogen to sort of make a comment about it. And it's a fairly long period of time for me to comment whether which technology is going to do better or something of that sort. So that is all I can say. Vinod, sir, does Vinod Jairam is saying Vinod Jairam and somebody else are asking me the same question. Vinod Jairam is saying, does compounding happen in windmill smart cases like how it happens in mutual funds? Request to explain. Yes, Jairam. So if you invest 100 rupees today and your small case surges up by 10% over the next 1 year, you're left with 110 rupees. And then if it goes up from there, if it goes up another 10% for the next 1 year, it is the 110 rupees which is earning the extra 10%, right? It is not just 100 rupees that is earning. So exactly like the way mutual funds work, compounding works the same way, regardless of any asset class. As long as you don't pull out any money, you will reap the benefit of that. Yes. If you have any further questions about this, Vinod, just drop in a mail to support@windmill.capital, and we can have a fairly long discussion. I can share some, write-ups around compounding and the likes. Jason is asking, what does it mean when someone says buy at dips? Say, I have a stock with an average buy price of rupees 500 as currently trading, and what would be considered a dip to buy anymore? Well, it's an interesting question. What somebody would say buy at dips is, let's say you bought in at 500 and it has surged up to 750. And because there is inherently nothing wrong with the company, but the markets have sort of dipped, the stock drops from 750 to 700 or 670 or something of the sort. Then if you are comfortable with the idea of buying in at that level, you should go ahead and buy it. That way your average buying price, assuming you have bought in at different levels, sort of comes down. That is what it means, Jason. Manik Kumar Jana, dear sir, please tell me which small case is better for small investors. Well, no, there is no difference between which small case is better for small investors or which small case is better for people who have a larger amount of money. It is just about risk, whether you are happy with taking up that amount of risk and whether you are ready to wait for the long term. Minimum investment amount is something that might be a factor for small investors. My suggestion is you can just go onto the small case profile. Sort of based on the minimum investment amount, you can use a sorting criteria to sort by lower minimum investment amount, and you can take a call on which small case would work. So the only reason, Manik, why there would be a difference for a small investor is the minimum investment amount aspect. The other things, the risk profiling, the staying power over the long period of time, all of these factors are the same. So kindly use the sorting option to figure out which small cases have a lower minimum investment amount, and then you can see which one would work better for you. Akshay Chitnis is saying, please explain why small case is better, not compared to mutual fund. If I have a capital, it's always a dilemma which one to choose. Well, as a do-it-yourself product, I think small case provides a lot more transparency compared to a mutual fund. In small case, you always know which companies you are investing in, and we provide a lot of information around these kinds of companies. There are a lot of, even for a small investor, there are the kind of AMA that is happening right now, where we are trying to give you a lot of visibility around how our small cases are going to be impacted. All of these aspects are there. We send out, if you're a subscriber, we send out newsletters. I'm not too sure if any mutual fund is going to do that. If any mutual fund is going to sort of accommodate a small investor and tell him, below the hood, these are the kinds of companies that you have. You will get access to the top 10 holdings and stuff like that, but beyond that, there are not too many other things that there is a lot of transparency around. And it's not like a lot of mutual fund managers will reach out to you, or they will have a AMA kind of session where they are sort of explaining their thought process behind selecting a particular stock or dropping a particular stock. So that ways, I feel that there is a lot of do-it-yourself aspect where the investor gets a lot of freedom in picking up the stocks and dropping the stocks. There is a lot more transparency that we are bringing about. And if you specifically talk about free small cases, I believe they are a lot more cheaper when compared to any expense ratio of any mutual fund. If you want any more clarification around that, Akshay, please write in at support@windmill.capital, and we'll be more than happy to discuss this further. Hemant Verma is saying, I have not paid the subscription. I refused him, so he's ignoring me. All money oriented. I'm not too sure. Hemant, I'm 100% sure I don't know you personally. This entire AMA is open for anybody, whether you are a paid subscriber or not. The fact that you are here is sort of talks about that. So I'm not too sure why you're so cross with me about. If you have any question, please go ahead and sort of type it in, and I'll be more than happy to answer that. Jeevan is saying how to calculate recommended amounts for small case with subscriptions. Jeevan, good question actually. See, I'll give you one example. Ideally, most mutual funds have an expense ratio of about 1%, right? When you are, let's assume a small case has a subscription value, and Momentum has a subscription fees of about 8,000 rupees. So if you have to get the minimum investment amount, let's assume is about 80,000 rupees. Now, if you were to go in with investing 80,000 rupees and pay an 8,000 rupees subscription fees, the expense ratio comes up to 10%. Probably not the wisest thing to do. So our suggestion, even in such cases, is always to sort of, over a period of time, obviously it doesn't happen on day one, over a period of time, sort of increase your investment in that small case, so that the subscription fees comes up to about 1 to 2% of the amount that you have invested in the small case. We understand this does not happen in the short term, but sort of like, over a long period of time, our suggestion is you sort of scale up your investment in the small case. Next we have Saxena is saying, I'm a subscriber. I choose to rebalance myself and portfolio is now off yours. How can I match the small case? Well, that is actually what happens, Saxena, sir. If you have sort of ignored our rebalance notifications, and if you have done it at different points of time, the return sort of tends to diverge. It could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. I don't know how your portfolio is doing. My suggestion is, going forward, at least sort of like, be a little diligent about applying the rebalance notifications when we actually send it out to you. And hopefully over a period of time, those returns will sort of converge. Once again, I'm hoping that, you're asking me this question because your portfolio has not done well compared to us. But then that's where it is. Chirag, after budget 2024, which category of small case you recommend? Well, Chirag, like I told you, there is no recommendation that we can offer for any one of our small cases. We are a research analyst. We don't do any sort of recommendations. But I just presented to you, we've talked about infra tracker, we've talked about transporting India, we've talked about affordable housing, electric mobility, rising rural demand, and all of these small cases. So I think the impact of budget on our small cases, we have been very, we've discussed all of those things. So based on those factors, I suggest you sort of go ahead and take a call. Okay, Preeti Jain is saying, new to the small case, want to do a small monthly investment in gold and silver ETF. Can you suggest any? We don't have any exposure to silver ETF that we can give you, Preeti. We have something like an equity and gold small case. It's one of our most popular small cases. Kindly explore that, equity and gold. You can just go on to either small case or on Windmill Capital, and you can search for it in your app. One of our most popular small cases, has done very well. Kindly explore it. If you have any questions around it, please drop in a line to support@windmill.capital. We'll be more than happy to share a lot of information. We have a lot of blog links and write-ups that we have done about the performance of that small case. We'll be more than happy to share all of that with you. Priyaranjan Prakash is saying, what about taxation on churning in small case against mutual funds? So we have a calculation to understand the impact. Priyaranjan, my suggestion is use the cost calculator on the small case app. They'll give you a fair idea of what's going to sort of happen, how taxation is going to affect you. It might, because individual tax slabs tend to be slightly different, it might not 100% match your case, but overall it should give you an idea of how it will affect. Manik Kumar Jana is saying, sir, thanks for my first answer. Can I buy railway stock this time? Yes, Manik, I think railway stocks, specific railway companies are part of our Transporting India small case. Please go ahead and explore it. I think that small case has done reasonably well, please go ahead and explore it. Saurav Bharadwaj, please explain how long we can put money in small case. Is SIP better for small case? If yes, then how much SIP every month ideally it should be? Saurav, how long can we put money in small case? We go into the understanding that we have built these small cases for the long haul. That is, we always suggest that you go ahead and stay invested in small cases over a long period of time. And a lot of our small cases are coming up on the 7th and 8th year mark, right? If you go onto our platform, you can see that. And they have all done fairly well over the long period of time. So yes, obviously, it is a long-term time frame that we are looking at, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Is SIP better for small case? Obviously, yes, SIP is better for small case. SIP is better for any sort of investment, because if there are a lot of dips that we are seeing, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of volatility that we are seeing, then buying a SIP will sort of help you average your investment over a period of time. How much of SIP should be done every month totally depends on you. I don't really know your personal finance situation. So an investment advisor, I think, will be in a better position to sort of advise you on that aspect. So kindly sort of go ahead and do that. Okay, next question. How to do tax harvesting in small case for big portfolio? Sachin, once again, kindly reach out to an investment advisor or a chartered accountant. They'll be in a better position to help you out with tax harvesting. Cherry Blossom. So what about Paytm stock available in my small case? I'm trying to sell it from 2 trading day, but it is still in my portfolio more than 46% loss. So what kind of analysts they choose this stock? I don't think anybody had any clue about what was happening under the hood for Paytm, right? Which is exactly why this correction has come about. And we are also closely tracking this particular company. We will continue tracking in once liquidity is going to be available. We might decide to sort of exit the stock. We don't have any sort of in the near term. I don't want to put out any views about that particular company. I hope that answers your question, Cherry. Pankaj Janged is asking, do you have any plans for crypto? Not in the near term, Pankaj. Sukesh, are you planning to add more PSU stocks as part of future rebalance updates to value and momentum, keeping in mind the performance over the past 6 months or so? Sukesh, so when we talk about small cases like value and momentum, which is a model small case, what actually happens is there are specific filters that we put out. One filter obviously seeks out companies which are low on the value scale, which means they have a lower PE or PB ratio compared to the sector or relative to the historical average. And then the other aspect is the momentum aspect. We are not specifically looking to pick up any sort of PSU company or banking company because they have been doing well. On the other hand, the way we apply the filter, there is a lot of self-selection of companies that have historically run up or which have been displaying momentum, but still have a lower PE. So it will be incorrect to look at it as, are we looking to add PSU stocks? More so, one should look at it as, there are a lot of PE companies which are low on the, there are a lot of PSU companies which is low on the PE scale, and they have also been seeing momentum. So it is possible that these companies will get added to the value and momentum small case. Saxena, can we do tax harvesting? Like I told you, like I told Sachin, please reach out to an investment advisor or a chartered accountant to help you out with tax harvesting aspect. MV saying, which of small cases high risk and high returns by Windmill Capital? You can just go on to either Windmill Capital's website or on the app. You can see the volatility flag. So sort of there are 3 different kinds of volatility flags that are available to you. A red one, which is high volatility, a yellow one, which is medium volatility, and green one, which is low volatility. And this volatility keeps changing based on what the price movement has been when compared to the index, what the price movement of the small case has been historically, right? So there you can check to see which small case is on the higher risk side. But remember, NV, a higher risk does not automatically mean higher returns, right? The correct understanding is higher risk should if you are picking up a higher risk asset, there should be a higher expectation of return. Whether that expectation is going to be met or not, nobody can promise such things. So let's be very clear about that fundamental. Higher risk does not mean higher return. Higher risk just simply means there should be an expectation of higher return. You should have an expectation of higher return. Whether the expectation is met or not is a completely different matter. Tech Geeks, there are 59 small cases managed by Windmill. Which would be the best one to invest for long term, say 3 years? Well, first of all, long term is not 3 years. Long term would be upwards of 4 years. 4 to 7 years time frame would be considered long term. I don't think there is any best small case as such. The best one would be the one that sort of meets your investment criterion or your investment needs. Somebody's investment needs might be met by a core small case like a AWI or a top 100. Somebody else's investment needs might be met by a high risk small case like Value and Momentum, right? Which has a lot of small cap stocks. So sort of you need to have the clarity as to what is the kind of investment that you're looking to do, and just check to see. You can use the filter option on smallcase.com to check to see, or on the app to check to see which small case meets your investment criterion, and then go ahead and invest in it. Brijesh Gandhi, we have Paytm and digital inclusion small case. It is down 40% in last few days. What is your planning for rebalance? What is your view about the small case? We are very bullish about the overall performance of the small case, which is actually why it is on the platform. If we were not bullish about the theme, we would have dropped the small case from the platform. As far as Paytm is concerned, we are closely tracking it. Obviously, there are liquidity issues. Even if we decide to sort of drop it from the small case tomorrow, nobody will be able to exit it. So please be a little patient, right? A lot of times what we have seen from our experiences, there is a immediate huge negative reaction, but over a period of time, the market sort of stabilizes. Once there is a lot of analysis that happens, and fund managers decide to sort of step in and take a call on whether they want to hold or sell. There is a lot of clarity that emerges in terms of price as well. So there could be a rebound also. I'm not saying that there is going to be a rebound in Paytm and you guys need to hold on. There are already liquidity issues. We are tracking it. We will come up with an update around that particular company shortly. Hussein, how much of overlapping of stocks is acceptable by choosing the different small cases? Good question. Well, we tend to look at each small case as a sort of like as a basket by itself. So there might be a minor amount of overlapping that could happen. Say if you have an electric mobility small case, some company there might also be part of the Value and Momentum or some other model small case, right? So we think the kind of exposure that you're trying to take with electric mobility and with Value and Momentum are completely different. So that amount of overlap, I think, is quite okay. Manikiran is saying, can you share a monthly newsletter which small case perform well in that month with reasons? Manikiran, we already send out a monthly newsletter to our paid subscribers. I'm not too sure whether you are a subscriber to any one of our small cases. If you are and you're not receiving the newsletter, kindly reach out to us on support@windmill.capital. We'll make sure that we send out the newsletter to you. The news is not always going to be around which small case performed well the last month, because that kind of information we feel is not particularly relevant. Last month is a very arbitrary time frame, and any small case could have performed better. It does not mean that the momentum is automatically going to carry forward and you could go ahead and invest in it. So I'm not too sure why that would be relevant. But there are a lot of very interesting articles that we put out in our small cases where we explain our thought process behind how the small case has been performing, why we put it together, and all of these aspects. So if you're a subscriber, you're not receiving it, please go ahead and write to us and we'll help you out. Chirag has a question around tax. Chirag, kindly reach out to an investment advisor or a chartered accountant, and they should be able to help you out. Manikiran, once again, for rebalancing, it is good to do at market open or post 30 a.m. I see a lot of movement in the first 30 minutes. There is no particular preference that we have when it comes to rebalance timeline, as long as you're doing it fairly quickly when we send out the rebalance notification. Like within 1 or 2 days of us sending out the rebalance notification, I think we should be good. Sachin Vicky, if we invest, what is that? Some high amount per month, I need to invest in one low volatility, medium volatility, high volatility. Give me 3 suggestions. I can also pay for subscription. Sachin, like I told you, Windmill Capital is a research analyst. We are not an investment advisor, so we cannot give you any suggestions due to compliance reasons, right? Please use there is a lot of write-up about core and satellite small cases on our platform. Please explore that. If you're not too sure where to find it, please write into us at support@windmill.capital. We'll share all of that literature with you. Kindly take a look at that literature. Any other clarification that you need as far as our small cases are concerned, we are more than happy to provide that. And then you yourself can take a call on which small cases you need to invest in. Saxena, can Windmill Capital add cash or gold to look for better opportunity to buy? The manager should rebalance on dip. First, let me take the second aspect first. Manager should rebalance on dip is apart from increasing your churn, which will result in higher tax payout for you and sort of increase your transaction cost. It's nothing is going to happen on the return front. We have told this, we've discussed this aspect multiple times. That's simply based on market movements. If you keep buying and selling your stocks, the only person who is going to benefit out of that is the broker and nobody else, right? Please understand that. Buying something and selling something on dips, rebalancing on dips without any associated use is as close to gambling as it can get. Any buying and selling has to happen on the basis of change in fundamentals or some new development, like the case of Paytm or any other company that you might think of, right? Simply buying basically because somebody else is buying and selling. A dip is basically that, right? Somebody else is selling, somebody else is buying. There is a lot more buying power. There's a lot more selling power, which is why there's been a dip in the market. Simply, if you're sort of asking us to follow the trend and do the same thing, apart from the broker, nobody else is going to benefit based on that. Add cash or gold. Yes, there are specific cases where added cash or gold. You can see that in case of quality small cap smart beta. There is some amount of movement to gold that we do in asset allocation version of our small cases. That's that about it. Pankaj is saying, is there a way to check how much returns I got in a specific period? For example, I want to check return from day 100 to day 200. Yes, Pankaj, you can do that. Go on to windmill.smallcase.com, windmill.smallcase.com. If you click on any small case of your choice, you will land on the overview page and you'll be able to see a chart. Below the chart, there's a download chart button. Just click on that. It will give you the index series for that small case as well as a comparable index. Over there, you can check to see the returns that you have made between any specific custom period that you can think of. Tushar is saying, for Windmill, do you have a team who monitors and rebalance, or are there automated strategies who perform this? Well, it is a combination of automated strategies plus human intervention. When it comes to thematic small cases and sectoral indices, it is the human intervention that comes into picture. We sit and take a look at every single stock. We analyze their results. We check to see what is happening on the corporate governance side, whether they are meeting our other filters like ASM, GSM, shareholding, pledges, and all of these factors. And then we take a call on whether we need to retain this particular stock in the small case or we need to sort of exit the small case. As far as model small cases are concerned, they work on the basis of specific filters. We look for companies which have a low PE ratio compared to the sector. We look for companies who have been displaying momentum, compared to Nifty 500 or Nifty 100 or any specific index. And then based on whether they meet these criteria, we either keep it in the small case or we drop it from the small case. So in one of the cases, there is extremely heavy human intervention. In the other case, there is very limited human intervention, and everything moves on the basis of fundamentals or numbers. Money can implement strategy type filter in small case web app. I'm not too sure what that means, Money. Tushar, do you think all-weather small case is suitable for parking funds? Well, all-weather investing small case is a core small case. You can read up about core and satellite strategy, core portfolio strategy. We had discussed this in our previous AMA also. You can go on to value and momentum, you can go on to YouTube and check out our previous AMA. We've touched upon the core and portfolio strategy and how all-weather investing is part of the core portfolio. So it is not a case of about parking your funds. It doesn't work like liquid bees if that is what you're talking about. It is more a case of investing in those funds for a long term, but they will not give you extraordinary returns like some of the other more riskier small cases. It's a safe, solid way of generating wealth over the long term. Vijay Sara, value and momentum, fair growth, more than 70% shares have changed. Any particular reason? Reason being some of these small cases, because they are based on PE ratio and momentum, either the momentum would have fizzled out for these companies or their PE ratio would have run up because they have run up over a their PE ratio would have increased because the stock price has changed a lot, which is why there would have been a lot of churn. MV, once again, you're asking me for a recommendation. I'm not going to do that. Saxena in value and momentum rather than a fixed rate of quarterly rebalance. Shouldn't we be rebalancing as soon as fundamentals change? Fundamentals change, Saxena sir, only once in a quarter. They don't change on a daily basis. We take that into consideration and we rebalance it. Vijay Sara, same question again. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for today. We've spent about close to 1 hour, and I think I've tried to answer all your questions. So I guess we can stop here. Thanks everybody for joining in. Have a great day ahead. Thanks. Bye.